I'm the Irish guy, and I don't hate any clubs. I just don't. Absolutely not. I don't hold any grudge against any football team. I think that would be a bit weird, but I started watching Premier League football in 2003, and so over the last 20 years, I have seen a lot of clubs. I'm gonna rank them from my least favourite to my most favourite, based solely on what they did with their time that they were given in the Premier League. I mean, it doesn't mean that I dislike the club now. No, I've moved on. I don't care. Like, I don't hate QPR now. How weird would that be? I mean, if I see James Alcott now, I don't have an rational need to push him off a cliff. In the same way that I don't want to give Alfie off Sevens a kiss behind the swings. But based on what these clubs offered up at the time that they had, then yeah, here's my big list of least favourite to most favourite Premier League clubs based on what I saw. But you tell me, put in the comment section below, after you subscribed of course, just tell me which ones were your favourite and least favourite. Right, let's go. 43rd, Cardiff City. I'm sorry, Cardiff City. Right now, I feel like a playground bully who keeps picking on the weird Welsh kid. You know, the one with the Gavin and Stacey lunchbox and wears Gareth Bale perfume. Yeah, I'd imagine the Gareth Bale cologne would probably just smell like if Tiger Woods starred in Planet of the Apes. Listen, to me, there was nothing more dull than watching Cardiff compete in the Premier League. It was a bit like being forced to watch your own grandmother knit a jumper solely using her own chest hair. I have only seen this Welsh club have 2 Premier League seasons, and it was all just a bit depressing. I mean, for the first campaign, German Vincent Tan forced the club to wear red instead of blue, which is a bit like a controlling husband-to-be, forcing his wife to ditch the traditional white dress to instead walk down the aisle wearing Nicki Minaj's clothes. Yeah, they finished bottom of the league and made us all feel sorry for Malky Mackay after he was unfairly sacked at Christmas, before we all had to change our minds when we realised that actually his text messages make him sound about as likeable as any AZ Alkmaar fan. The second time around, they were relegated in 18 with grumpy old Neil Warnock at the wheel, and there was the whole disaster and tragedy surrounding Emiliano Sala, which honestly was just so horrible. I feel sorry for the Cardiff fans. Most of the coaches they had in the Premier League had the tactics of barbecued sausage. Their team never really put up much of a fight. I mean, considering their first Premier League home win was beating Man City, we were all led to believe that they were ready to compete, but they were about as competitive as a drunk Pikachu playing chess. Just ugly. 42nd, Watford. Get in the bin. I'm sorry, Watford. I'm sure their fans are nothing but a delight. But, right, my first memories of the Hornets are in 2006 when they won just 1 of the first 22 Premier League games and still didn't sack their coach, Adi Boothroyd. I mean, can you imagine if back then they were controlled by their current ownership? Yeah, pretty sure after such a run, the Pozzo family would probably have cut off all of his fingers and fed them to him for lunch. Instead, back then, Elton John probably just gave him a sympathy kiss on the cheek. I mean, it was around that time their superstar player was Marlon King. Yeah, he's got nearly 20 criminal convictions and has since had to flee to Zambia, where he can probably be found punching zebras in a field. Why I've disliked Watford in the Premier League is just down to their ruthless owners. These Italian blokes have binned off 18 gaffers since 2012. If this is a Japanese horror film, they'd probably have Quique Sanchez's Flores' brain stuffed in a jar in the fridge. I don't respect this way of trying to run a football club, because every time they appointed a manager, it wasn't exciting. I knew they'd be gone the first time they accidentally coughed near Gino Pozzo's sandwich. Even the return of beloved old man Claudio Ranieri, I knew they were going to eat him alive. It was like watching your cuddly, affable granddad going on a date with Katie Price. 41st, QPR. QPR very quickly became boring in the Premier League. I was excited when they first got promoted in 2011. Their owner, Tony Fernandes, had ambition. He brought in some big name players. They didn't click, but they finished 17th. But okay, the following summer, the influx of Champions League winners. They gave fat money to Chris Samba. They stole Loic Remy from under Newcastle's nose, and were still one of the worst Premier League teams of all time. But I suppose they didn't win any of the first 16 league games that season. Their players didn't care. But what really left a sour taste of snake piss in my mouth was that the club essentially just took away the players who got them promoted, showing them no gratitude. Is that really what the sport is all about? Suddenly, you had the ex-goalkeeper Paddy Kenny ringing up the QPR boss to laugh at Rob Green conceding 5 in his debut. I mean, the club were constantly pandering to adult rap, so I wouldn't be surprised if he used to spit at lunch ladies in the eye. Chairman Tony Fernandes was full of boring false promises, like in February 2015, after hiring him quit because he'd hurt his knee. Yeah, 3 years later, he was living in the Australian outback, watching one of the vamps eat a bag of spiders and donkey genitals. I mean, I don't know. I've never seen the show. For all I know, they ate Peter Andre's head in a pie.
Think I've got my dream manager. Not what anyone thinks. Take a while. Still a bit to go, but I'm very happy. Press all wrong.
Look at the hype. I remember thinking it was going to be Zidane. It was Chris Ramsey. If you have to clarify that it's not the comedian, that he's not a big name. They finished 20th in 2015 too, with the season alone just being a smudge on Rio Ferdinand Street cred. Honestly, his little brother did better than him at QPR. So yeah, all in all, QPR in the Premier League, we're just a toxic mess. 40th Sheffield United. I'm sorry, Sheffield United. I'm not sure why you never ever excited me in the Premier League. You finished 18th in 2007, forcing us all to listen to a summer of Neil Warnock whining about West Ham. I mean, to this day, if he ever bumps into Carlos Tevez again, you just know his wife will probably start beating the Argentinian with her purse. I mean, their relegation probably cost her another family holiday. Listen, the Blades were sort of exciting when they finished 9th in 2020. That was great, but the drop-off to then finish last in 2021 on just 23 points, with Chris Wilder's career stuffed so far down the sewer pipe, his CV was probably tickling the nose of Pennywise the Clown. Lads, that 2021 season, 2 points from the first available 51. It's one of the worst runs in Premier League history. I mean, thankfully, no fans were allowed in the ground, or they'd have probably been violently ill. Maybe I'm being harsh, but I can't pick a single Sheffield United player who ever excited me in the Premier League. Even Aaron Ramsdale was made to look like he had the wrist of cauliflower. 37th Bolton Wanderers. Okay, forget whether or not Bolton fans like to steal gloves from children. Honestly, Thogden is like the anti-Santa Claus. That's nothing to do with why I have Bolton so low in the list. I have Bolton so low because my memories of them in the Premier League were just being an ugly, attritional bunch of beasts under Sam Allardyce. Don't get me wrong, they were effective, yes. They finished 8th, 6th, 8th and 7th. But aside from JG Okocha and Nicolas Anelka, the rest of those players are about as exciting to watch as, I don't know, gerbils having a poo. Then I remember how average this team was once Big Sam left, finishing 16th, 13th, 14th, 14th and 18th for a while there. Because of how unambitious they were, it just felt like they were taking up room in the Premier League. You know, a bit like when you're sitting on an aeroplane next to some fat bloke eating cheeseburgers was asking you to wipe the grease off his chin. Allardyce actually told the world that the reason he quit Bolton was because the board didn't actually want to push on and qualify for the Champions League. I mean, what? I wanted to get on board with this club having ambition. I thought a corner had been turned in 2010. Under Owen Coyle, they're playing slick, lovely football on the floor. They'd only lost 2 of the first 15 league games. They were 5th in November, but now, 2 years later, relegated. 36th Burnley. This will change. I already know this will change. Under Vince and company, I'm expecting Burnley to look pretty next year. I mean, it's like when the fat kid off Drake and Josh suddenly turned into a teen magazine hunk. I know it's weird. My eyes are gonna struggle to readjust, but I am expecting to like Burnley soon. It's just that for all those years under Sean Dyche, they're about as fun to watch as Bug Bunny drinking a pint of his own wee. They are predictable, tedious, effective, yes, but just another Bolton, really. 35th Stoke City. I don't think Stoke City fans care. They know they weren't exactly a popular choice in the Premier League. They got a kick out of that. But it's not just the ugly football that I didn't like. It was sacking Tony Pulis in 2013 after 5 seasons in the Premier League to upgrade to Mark Hughes. Again, I didn't hate Stoke. They were a solid, hard-to-beat team. But what I saw from the Potters was them very quickly betraying their principles, moving away from hard-as-nailed and fashionable grafters to sprinkling their team with overpaid, big-name mercenaries, which contributed to a toxic dressing room and relegation. Honestly, can you imagine Peter Crouch trying to now crack jokes with pampered ex-Barcelona superstars? This was a classic case of a down-to-earth bloke losing his head when he becomes famous. Stoke choosing to indulge in big-name celebrity footballers who had the passion of a teabag. It's like Conor McGregor going from man of the people, king of the plumbers, to someone who punches old men in pubs. Sorry, Stoke, but you messed it up. 34th West Brom. No! Don't make me relive West Brom in the Premier League again! No! Yeah, right now I feel like some spoiled child who hates the sight of broccoli on his plate. Yeah, right now he's turning into something off The Exorcist and threatening to stab his stepdad in the eye with a spoon. But seriously, West Brom have offered us nothing in the Premier League. Right? Well, not quite. Don't get me wrong, the Baggies have mostly been relegation fodder, and about as exciting as the underside of Aunt Margaret's knee. I mean, these have been their points totals in the Premier League since 2003. 26, 34, 30, 32, 47, 47, 49, 36, 44, 43, 45, 31 and 26. I mean, we've witnessed some of their players stealing taxis in Spain, showing their fans such little respect. Gareth Barry might as well have walked into the West Brom Hospitality Lounge and chosen the wee in everybody's stew. I mean, this club have had spoiled brats like Saido Berahino threatening to quit, but there are saving graces. I enjoyed West Brom's last day great escape in 2005. I also like their team under Steve Clarke. Romelu Lukaku banging them up front. I mean, they finished 8th. They were 3rd in the league a month before Christmas. That was exciting. I mean, West Brom in the Champions League. That's like trying to imagine Beyonce doing a concert on the moon. I'm pretty sure she'd just give the aliens earache. Lads, West Brom did beat all the big teams. They actually played out a 5-5 draw with Man United, so they're not all bad. They had their moments. 33rd Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough were mostly boring. They were. Listen, they had a tasty, dramatic run to the Europa League final in 2006. I liked that Middlesbrough team under Steve McLaren. And you know what? Seeing them beat Manchester City by 8-1, one of the most surreal results in Premier League history, and it probably caused Liam Gallagher to choke on his chips. But other than that, under Gareth Southgate, they were mostly a hideously boring unit sleepwalking their way to relegation. And they were back up in 2016, and I'm sorry, but Ida Karanka had such a dull team. They went on a 16-game winless run. Can any of you remember anything about that Borough team? It's probably like trying to remember the plot of Evan Almighty. 32nd Birmingham City. Yeah, Birmingham didn't really leave much of an impression on me. In the early 2000s, they were a brief mid-table team under Steve Bruce before they were relegated in 2006. They came back up in 2007, went back down in 2008, came back up in 2009, and weirdly finished 9th and went on a 12-game unbeaten run, keeping 6 clean sheets. Joe Hart was looking like the English Buffon. Buffon if he decided to lick shampoo off the floor. So that newly promoted Birmingham team was interesting to me, but they didn't build on that. Got relegated the following season, and we haven't seen them since. I mean, they had big name players like Alex Hleb and Obafemi Martins, but aside from 1 or 2 moments, they didn't look particularly good. So Birmingham are a bit like that film with famous actors, but because of a weak plot, it's actually about as entertaining as watching Mark Goldberg wipe his bum. 31st Charlton Athletic. Lads, one of my first ever Premier League memories is going back to 2003 and seeing that Charlton Athletic had beaten Chelsea 4-2. Seeing that result in teletext was weird to watch. A bit like walking in your grandma doing yoga in the nude. The Addicts finished 7th that season, and then they chose to quickly bin off their manager Alan Kirbishley after 10 years of success and got relegated a year later with a different Alan at the wheel, Alan Pardew. That demonstration of ingratitude. Again, it's been like a famous person choosing to ditch their childhood sweetheart for some stripper who stinks of a donkey's armpit. The only reason I don't have Charlton lower on the list is because I have a slight nostalgia for Charlton in the summer of 2005. They began the season with 4 straight wins. They sat joint top of the league. Danny Murphy and Darren Bent were looking world class. In my feeble little child brain, I actually thought that team was going to challenge Chelsea. Yeah, they were still losing 5 games in a row, and I looked like I drunk too much breast milk from my dog. 30th Crystal Palace. Boring, boring, boring. I know Crystal Palace pulled off the great escape under Tony Pulis in 2014. That was pretty fun to watch, but since then, it's been mid-table mediocrity for a decade. To be fair, they have done it in style. I've enjoyed watching the likes of Wilfred Zaha, Michael Olise, Ebereki Eze. So yes, while the final product is just boring grades, the way they've done it has been fun to watch. It's been like, yeah, getting 5% in the maths exam, but I mean, at least you wrote it with a fancy pen. You know, the one with Harry Potter's head on the top. 29th Blackburn Rovers. Blackburn Rovers. Meh. I didn't see this club's glory era of the 90s. My first memory of Blackburn Rovers is collecting the Premier League stickers and seeing Damien Duff. Now, I know the guy looked like an angry gingerbread man, but he was my favourite player at the time, and so yeah, I sort of wanted Blackburn to do well. Then he was sold to Chelsea. They plummeted from 6th to 15th, then finished 15th again, then another 6th. Those 4 years between 2003 and 2006, such a weird case of symmetry. Blackburn in the Premier League always had top of the range, top class centre forward scoring goals. Whether it was Andy Cole, Craig Bellamy, Benny McCarthy, Rocky Santa Cruz, Yakubu. Well, come on, managers like Mark Hughes, Paul Ince, Sam Allardyce, Steve Keane. I mean, Hughes looked like Guardiola compared to the other 3. Most of the time, watching Blackburn in the years before relegation, no more fun than watching Ed Sheeran pick his nose. Blackburn in those years were always just wasted potential. And don't even get me started on that time they tried to sign Ronaldinho. 28 Sunderland. Have Sunderland added much to the Premier League? Yes and no. Don't get me wrong, they finished bottom in 2003 and 2005 with a combined points total of 34. 34 points across 2 seasons. I'm surprised Mick McCarthy was able to sleep after that. How he got a job in club football after that. It's a bit like Uber employing someone who once ran over the Queen. But listen, I was intrigued by Sunderland under Roy Keane. They were surprisingly good to watch under Steve Bruce. And then yeah, they spent about 5 years clinging onto survival by the width of a giraffe's nostril hair. I mean, from 2013 to 2017, they failed to hit 40 points every single year and still mostly survived. Lads, when Sunderland were good, they were quality, but when they were bad, the depths this club hit, setting a low points record twice, travelling to Southampton and conceding 8. David Moyes had to wait 3 months to win his first game at home. The whole era of Paolo Di Canio, when he basically accused John O'Shea of being a drunk. When Sunderland were bad, they were entertainingly horrific. They were like the Smeagol of the Premier League. Fewer clubs in the Premier League have ever hit the depths that Sunderland did. Honestly, they're a bit like Millhouse's dad. You just felt bad for them. 27th Brighton. Brighton have consistently made me look like an idiot. 4 years, but to be fair, I have them pretty high because yes, the football they're playing under Roberto De Zerbi is pretty nice, so yeah, fair play, Brighton. 26, Norwich City. I would imagine that most people are sick of Norwich City. Every time we let them back into the Premier League, they finish bottom of the Premier League. It's been like continuing to let that delinquent from school attend your birthday party. Yeah, every year, as soon as your mum opens the door, he just throws eggs at the TV, wipes snot all over your bed, and starts to do a poo in the fridge. I get why people are sick of Norwich. I've seen them relegated from the Premier League 5 times now, but they've never been that ugly team to just stick 9 men behind the ball. They've at least gone down trying to keep possession and trying to win. Watching a Norwich City game wouldn't exactly make you want to rub salt in your eyes. And when I think of Norwich, I do think of that win over Man City in 2019, which honestly, to this day, that was even more shocking than when I found out that Justin Bieber was married to his sister. Okay, that's not true, but does that sound like something that could be? 25th, Leeds United. Leeds United, maybe get Patrick Bamford tattooed on my foot. Listen, the last 18 months of Leeds football has been absolute muck, but that one season of Bielsa ball, when you finished 9th in the league, I know the sanctity of my foot was at stake, but I can impartially attest that your brand of football that season was saucy beyond belief. I actually felt bad for the Leeds fans. After nearly 20 years being outside the top tier, those supporters were not allowed into Elland Road to watch that season. When they finally did come back to watch, the whole Bielsa project had crumbled like Weetabix in the bath. I have sympathy for Leeds, I really do. So yeah, I'll have you as high as 25th, 24th Wolves. Forget about those horrible Wolves teams who got relegated in 2004 and 2012. They were a waste of everybody's time. But the rejuvenated Portuguese Wolves excited me for a bit. From their promotion in 2018, for a couple of years there, when they finished 7th twice in a row, I actually thought that the strength of Jorge Mendes' phone book was going to kick them into the Champions League spots. Chris, well, they're going to sign Ronaldo and Di Maria. Sergio Ramos is going to be at Molineux. But the whole project has been so anticlimactic, and they've now fallen away into the bottom half. So that's all a bit meh. Even more disappointing than the outcome of Game of Thrones. But for a while there, Wolves did capture my imagination. Christ, I sound like some nerd reading Harry Potter on the bus. 23rd Southampton. It's a tale of two halves. I remember Southampton going from 8th to 20th inside 2 years back in the mid-2000s, sure, but when they came up in 2012, they made me look like an ignorant goblin. Thank Christ I had no YouTube channel in 2013. Lads, I barely understood what the internet was. I thought Facebook was just a platform for lonely mums to upload photos of their cakes. But if I did have a channel, I would have ranted about how much of a disgrace it was for a newly promoted Southampton to sack Nigel Adkins for some Wolverine lookalike from Espanyol who didn't even speak English. Yeah, that nobody was Pochettino. But yeah, lads, the exciting teams under Pochettino and Ronald Koeman, brilliant, but everything since about 2016 just so ugly. They sold their best players, kept losing 9-0, didn't offer anything to the league, so all just a bit ugh. 22nd Nottingham Forest. I'm just so happy to see Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. They're a big, huge club. Have weirdly made a celebrity fan of Ariel Helwani, but have I really enjoyed watching them play this season? No, it's been pretty painful to watch. Their transfer business is absolutely nutty. I mean, if the owner had sacked Steve Cooper before Halloween, then I'd have chucked him into the realms of QPR. But they didn't. So I rate their loyalty, so yeah, I'll stick to 22nd. 21st, Aston Villa. In my time watching Premier League football, I think I expected a bit more from a club with a European Cup on their CV. Listen, Aston Villa from 2003-2006 were a waste of time. But as soon as Martin O'Neill took the wheel, Villa were an exciting underdog trying to crack the top 4. Don't forget, he began his Villa career with just 1 defeat in his first 14 Premier League games. Lads, I bet somebody €15 that Aston Villa would win the league. Yeah. I know, that was about as clever as eating capu with a spoon, but still, that team was exciting. Then they sold all their best players, and overnight became one of the most boring teams in history. I cannot forget or forgive those god-awful Villa teams under Alex McLeish, Paul Lambert, and Tim Sherwood. Listen, that season where they finished 20th in 2016 was laughable, but it was the season before which offended my senses. They finished 17th, but lads, they failed to score in 19 games that season. Listen, Villa have looked a lot better since coming back up in 2019, yes. And I enjoy watching this Unai Emery team, but I'm sorry, from 2010 to 2016, this Villa team, I hated it. And I'm sure you did too. It didn't score goals. It just kind of sat there like a motionless teddy bear that stinks of milk. 20th Brentford. Brentford in the league. Keep proving me wrong. I kept saying they'd get relegated, and they didn't. They've only gone to finish inside the top half. Brentford, it made me look like an idiot with cabbage for brains. But I do like what Thomas Frank has done with this team. I like how fearless he is when competing against the top 6. And I do think that Ivan Toney's technique is an absolute joy to watch. I mean, he attempts shots from the halfway line. It's like watching Paul Merson in the flesh. I hope this one doesn't try and gamble away his house. But fair play, Brentford in the Premier League have been positive, fresh, well done bees. 19th Huddersfield Town. I wasn't in love with Huddersfield Town. As far as success stories go, it was a little bit meh. I was excited to see them promoted, yes, but let's be real. They didn't achieve the 40-point mark once. Stayed up with 37 points in 2018, then went down with 16. That wasn't like some miracle underdog chapter like Wigan. They beat Man United at home, and that was just sort of it. I think that huge win over Jose Mourinho sort of makes this Huddersfield stint in the Premier League look more impressive than it actually was. I wanted them to do well, and they did for a couple of months, but I don't know. They were fine, I guess. 19th Fulham. Well done, Fulham. You've cracked the top 20 purely based on their great escape in 2008. I mean, they were mathematically relegated at halftime against Man City. They came back to win 3-2, somehow survived, and won a Europa League final within 2 years, scoring 5 against Juventus. That is still one of the greatest survival stories in Premier League history. It's similar to Leicester City. I mean, the rest of the Fulham seasons in the Premier League have been pretty meh, but still, I loved that chapter under Roy Hodgson. 18th Everton. Yeah, just a solid mid-table team. I respected their grit under David Moyes. The fact they finished in the top 4 in 2005 was insane. And yeah, they've been pretty awful for the last few years, but for a while there, they've been a solid addition. 17 Tottenham. Simply put, Tottenham have been fun to watch in the Premier League. They've always been an attacking, exciting team who score loads of goals. There's been 9-1 wins, outside title shots. They've had world-class strikers, unbelievable players. I think we can all agree, Spurs have been a huge asset to the Premier League. 16th Chelsea. I think Jose Mourinho's Chelsea teams were refreshing. I mean, they arrived to break up the title monopoly. They were the disruptors. But then the club decided to sack everyone with a pulse. Listen, Chelsea have been great at times, but they've also been like that chaotic grandmother, impulsively waving around her credit card. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's definitely fun to watch. 15th Man United. One of the greatest teams in Premier League history. The players they produced, the manager they had, the winning spirit, the incredible results, some of the beautiful football. Roy Keane, they've been terrific to watch. They've added so much to the Premier League. But like with the other top clubs, I do enjoy the underdogs more. 14th Liverpool. Again, incredible. But what I prefer about Liverpool's era in the Premier League to Man United's is the unpredictable nature. They've been up and down. One minute they're finishing 7th in the league. The following year, Luis Suarez is nearly winning them the league. I mean, they've had ridiculous lows as well, like being 5-0 down at halftime to Stoke. Liverpool have just been pure entertainment. 13th Man City. The Aguero moment. The Sergio Aguero goal against QPR is the most dramatic moment in the history of the Premier League. Without Man City, that moment would have never happened, which would be a huge loss. Also, the goals they've scored, the players they've had, the fact that they've had this makeover, going from an ugly pudding team under Stuart Pearce, who didn't score a goal for 6 months, to now possible treble winners under Pep Guardiola. The records they've broken, they've been fascinating to watch. 12th Arsenal. Again, Arsenal so unpredictable. They've had ridiculous highs, like the invincible season, but they've also lost 6-0 to Chelsea and 8-2 to Man United. They've had the meltdown of the fans during the Wenger era. It's just pure box office. And even now, their outside title shot under Arteta was refreshing to watch. Yeah. What a club! 11th West Ham. West Ham have had a brilliant time in the Premier League. The collection of extraordinarily talented players, the runs they've gone on in Europe, the great escape in 2007, the fact that West Ham literally had Carlos Tevez playing for them in the Premier League. I maintain that is the biggest transfer coup in the history of this division. It would be like some 64-year-old bookworm Nan turning up for the next family outing with George Clooney on her arm. 10th Swansea City. Swansea City were great, they really were. From 2011 to around 2015, under Brendan Rodgers and Michael Laudrup, they were a fresh, exciting, possession-based team. And then they slowly morphed into an ugly, chaotic side who finished 18th in 2018, and we never saw them again. But I would say that 2013 Swansea was peak Swansea, and yeah, there were loads of goals in that team. 9th Hull City. I loved Hull City in the Premier League for about 6 months. Lads, I can tell you exactly when. From August 2008 to October 2008. The Hull City blew me away. They were 3rd after 9 weeks, just 3 points off the top, with Paul McShane in defence. Just what? They travelled to both Arsenal and Spurs and won. Then Phil Brown had a meltdown on the pitch and they imploded. They won just one of the final 22 games to barely survive. They got relegated in 2010, came back up in 2013, and yeah, they had their moments under Steve Bruce. I mean, watching them win a game on Match of the Day by 6 goals was surreal. They've been a yo-yo club since, so overall, yeah, I've gotten bored of Hull lately, but that purple patch in 2008, that was so good. 8th Derby County. Derby County have only had 1 season in the Premier League. Oh, well, on my watch anyway. And it was awful. It was so bad. But you know those films that are so bad that they're good? Yeah, Derby County is football's answer to The Room. Or that movie about sharks and hurricanes. Derby were hilarious. 11 points during the 07-08 season. 11 measly points. Who does that? Just one win all season. They conceded 89 goals in 38 games. A goal difference of -69. Their manager, Paul Jewell, was having a meltdown on Match of the Day every week. He called it the worst year of his life. On the final day of the season, he told the press that the majority of his players would not represent the club ever again. He said they showed a lack of dignity. The man clearly hated his squad. He even said they weren't fit to wear the shirt. That honestly was mental. Can you imagine the halftime team talks? He was probably threatening to throw hot coffee in his captain's eye. They were officially relegated in March with 6 games left. They conceded 6 goals in 4 different matches. I'm sorry, Derby, they were an embarrassment to themselves and to the Premier League, but I have to say, it was good fun to watch. Just one big disaster movie, like Cloverfield or that Willy Wonka film. 7th Bournemouth. Bournemouth have been one of the greatest underdogs in Premier League history. I remember when Eddie Howe took this team into the top flight. I thought they'd be viciously ripped apart, like throwing a small child into the gorilla pit at the zoo. But free-flowing, beautiful football, going toe-to-toe with the biggest clubs, finishing 9th in 2017, the bravery to go to Stamford Bridge and win 3-0, even the courage and grit this season to survive with a nobody manager in the Premier League and with a championship squad and showing their inner strength to recover their pride from losing 9-0. Well done. Your little seaside village has been a credit to the Prem. 6, Newcastle. What? Newcastle have been exciting in the Premier League. What? 5th, Wigan Athletic. Considering nowadays I speak about the town of Wigan as if it's nothing more than a pet cemetery that stinks of BO and Burger King, you're probably surprised to see them in my top 5. But lads, I loved Wigan's journey in the Premier League. Don't underestimate just how much I thought they'd be squashed like an ice cream in 2005. But, I mean, they came up with a tiny budget. They nearly beat the champions Chelsea on the opening day. They actually went and won 8 out of 9 Premier League games in a row. They were 3rd in November. That run of form is the greatest effort I have ever seen from a unique brooded club. They also added unbelievable drama on the final day in 2007 when David Unsworth scored the winning goal against Sheffield United to keep Wigan up and send the Blades down. Lads, Wigan only signed it from Sheffield United in January. The fact Wigan survived 8 seasons in this league, beating all the top teams, losing 8-0 and 9-1 in the same season and still surviving, going down the same month they won the FA Cup, it was all just complete bonkers. Well done, Wigan. You've been fantastically insane. 4th, Reading. I liked Reading in the Premier League. How could I not? They finished 8th as a newly promoted team in 2007 with a core of Irish players in their squad. Now, I'm not saying Ireland quickly became Reading fans. I don't think I ever saw one Reading shirt in that country, but still, they were everybody's second favourite team for a while. Yeah, a bit ironic that everybody in Ireland had a soft spot for a team called the Royals. I mean, if you told a bloke in a pub in Kilkenny what Reading's nickname was, he'd probably got sick in his pint. To be fair, they've only had 3 Premier League seasons, and they were relegated in 2 of them. But I still remember Reading beating West Ham 6-0. And to this day, I still remember Reading, while as a Premier League club, losing 7-4 to Portsmouth and 7-5 to Arsenal. They were insane entertainment. 3rd, Leicester City. Great escape, Premier League title win, their owner's tragedy, the nuttiness of Jamie Vardy, 9-0 away win, and FA Cup triumph with the owner's son. Need I say more? 2nd, Portsmouth. I'm not sure exactly why, but I loved Portsmouth in the Premier League. Their great escape under Harry Redknapp, who returned after relegating Southampton. Portsmouth had just collected 1 point from 8 games in 2006. He then gets them to win 6 of the final 10 games to somehow keep them up. And I remember him building an exciting team which won the FA Cup. They finished 8th in 2008. They were one of the most exciting up-and-coming clubs outside the top 5. And then it all went down the toilet with ownership chaos, and they finished last in 2010. But for a while there, Portsmouth were so exciting. And the fact that it's going to be at best case scenario 16 years at least since we've seen them in the Premier League, it's all just a bit sad. 1st, Blackpool. Oh, Blackpool. Little old Blackpool. I could sit here and waffle on about why they're my favourite Premier League team of all time, but how about I just told their manager instead?
Sorry, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Sorry, how are we doing? I was just saying, can I just say, my one favourite neutral team that I don't support in the Premier League has been Blackpool 2010. That team was so brave. So I'm not just gassing up Ian. I loved that team, genuinely. You went out to win every single match. That was a team. It was unbelievable, Jermaine. Like, honestly. Yeah, that's my favourite. That was my favourite. That team was unbelievable.
Well, we had to go for it because we couldn't do anything else.
Yeah, you did.
We tried to dominate the ball and we couldn't.
Yeah.
We weren't good enough, but we had a damn good go.
You really gave it a go. I was so good on that final day at Old Trafford. I was good. You guys, because I remember that interview you did after, I think it was Villa away, and the media were getting your back because you played a weakened team. You're like, it's not a weakened team. It's my squad. I gotta use my squad players.
I left Charlie Adam out. That's what I got wrong.
Yeah.
Because everybody thought Charlie was the only player we had. We had a load of good players.
You had some good players in that team. Yeah, man. Yeah, no, I just had to say that because honestly, I wish we had more teams like that, more just brave, adventurous, you know. I mean, we've got Big Sam back now. We know what he's going to do. He's going for a 0-0 draw every game. But you didn't, Ian. And I'm not just saying, I'm not gassing you up. Yeah, I love that team. I really did.
We did the best we could.
Yeah, it's okay. No fear, Ian. No fear. Listen.
Well, I'm only afraid of dying, to be honest with you.
Don't say that. So am I.
No, I can't be
so
around
am I. Way to bring the mood down. You thought we were getting along there.
No, I'm just
Jesus
saying
Christ.
I'm not afraid of anything apart from dying, because that's going to ruin my day, innit?
Well, let's hope no one gives you a heart attack today if you see their dodgy first touches. Alright? Alright? Lads, the fact that little old Blackpool went out to win every match, they would either lose 6-0 or win 4-3. Their manager Ian Holloway would often have passionate rants in the media. They had a tin pot championship squad, and yet still they hung in until the final day when they nearly went to Old Trafford and won. They were incredible. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Let me know in the comments, what are your favourite teams? What are your least favourite ones? Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to give a like, share, subscribe, and as always, I'll talk to you in a while.